Hi. This week I'm calling it Drop Out to Drop In. The theme was very strong and clear this week, and interestingly enough, a particular essence was like a theme that also came through the sessions. And I'm going to share how it culminated first, because it was very interesting how the time of this week came to this particular point. And a lot of people are feeling very tired and just needing to rest, just drop out and just rest. And then there are those who just recently have done this dropping out and resting and having a sense of, I can get going again. So this drop out, drop in is a theme. And what I'm going to share now, which sort of what it culminated to, it used an analogy, and the analogy actually fits the energy of it. So it's that sense of we've been living in this space and the psyche of this space and the sharedness of this space. And then there is a space that we cannot see, but we can feel. And this here is a lot to do with old organizations or carrying the concerns for other people, or linked to ancestry that is still bleeding through. And what we found was that although this, in fact, and letting that go and seeing very clearly not to be concerned about that, was still playing itself out because of the dialogue and the expectations, and that people on this side couldn't see where it was going on that side, even though it could be said clearly. There was a lot of this dialogue going in between, which at the end of the day is a storm in a teacup that will stop. But it's about staying on your own page with what you see going forward. And then everything went calm, and the clarity of what is already in place in the activity of the being, then all that discussion kind of comes to naught. It's kind of just a let them talk, because I'm very clear about where I'm going with everything that's going on, because it's actually already in place. So this sense of these two worlds that are linked, that are very slowly finding their own. And although the world will be the world we see here, the way we live in it will be distinctly its own world. So we are literally doing this individually and collectively at the moment. So an essence that showed up quite a bit was fringed violet. And fringed violet, it's such a beautiful, beautiful flower. And how it played out was in the world that we're familiar with, and familiar with for a very, very long time, a very long time. And there was a real sense of generational energy that comes from there, also reincarnational energy coming here over and over and over again, and looking at the world and feeling depressed or upset that it still isn't what we know it could be. So in this flower, when you think about the productivity of a flower, it lies in the center of it. And the fertility of it that comes out of, that productivity that comes out of it, and the connections we can make with it. But when we go further out, we can get affected by organizations or legislations or things that we know could be better, but we have no control over. Because the global is almost more powerful than the government and the local. So there are quite a few things we're not in control of. And what we found was happening was that we would affect this center, and the sensitivity of feeling all those things, not just in this lifetime, but accumulated over many lifetimes, was draining the energy from the productivity of being present and moving forward with your own life. And it was ancestral because it was the expectations of the grandparents to the parents and the parents now to the children. And we're living in a very, very different world than we did several generations ago. That sense of extended family now is not necessarily living in the same house, not necessarily living in the same country, but the expectations are still maintained. And that can really, when you hold that, it can really drain the energy from one's own productivity. And it found its peace because in many ways they saw how they were kind and generous and completely giving and finding a place where that was sufficient, rather than carrying all the problems, feeling responsible and guilty for all of it, which nobody is. Another, who has been retired for a while, was still being drained from all the organisations that she had worked in and cared for, and had great concern for the people who were the recipient of these organisations. And organisations don't always work the way a being who is very concerned for all the others doesn't always go in that direction. And although she isn't working there anymore, she's still carrying this concern for them, even though they're not in her life anymore. And so again, it was to let that go, drop out of that world, to drop in to what's happening now moving forward. It showed up also in someone who lifetime after lifetime has been so concerned about a sense of equality for women, and has worked in powerful organisations involved in that theme. And what was really lovely is that letting go of what has been happening for eons of lifetimes, there was a falling into the centre, and it was more a recognition of how she had herself come to a place where it was about being present and being productive for what could show up in the world. A very positive sense of moving forward and dropping off this psychic energy that's been there for so long, and just to realize that has nothing to do with being present and doing the best we can to be productive moving forward. Now, that actually led to, beautifully, followed on to another essence that also expressed really well how this all moved forward through the week. And the essence that came up was billy goat plum. And you can see that fabulous energy just spurting out in that direction. And what was going on here was that energy was showing up in the past. Because what lives inside the being is all the potentials that came into this world. And what was happening, all this energy and that potential in comparison to what life showed up as felt disappointing. And there was an anger about, what did I do with all that energy? And why has it ended up where I am now? And again, that's part of that old world. And by looking at it and seeing that nothing has been lost, because all of that was still existing. And then it was able to see that all those things that I see, that other people may not see, but I can see, is actually where my energy is going, and feeling the preciousness of all the insights and energies expanded in life. One thing after another was resolved. And now this energy was going forward. So again, dropping out to drop in. And what was beautiful, that when that took place, the energy opened up, and this sense of downloads coming in that bring all of this into presence. So again, a similar strong theme, and it's so exciting to be in life. And in fact, this being is so productive that what showed up in that energy was, why can't other people see how productive we can be? Like a sense of anger around people who can't see it. It's like, can you imagine what this world would be like if we could all just bring it out and be productive, rather than just be stuck in this world where one does not feel powerful or inspired? And what came from that really is the recognition of his own joy, of how amazing it is to be in this world and to be able to be productive and put plans in place and projects in place and the whole play of it. Then with a similar theme again, this being had a stuckness in the wrist and wanted to look at that. And a lot of growth has happened over the last few months or whatnot. And this was just something that was annoying that needed to be sorted. And what we found here was that she was holding on to this huge bag of all the things that had to be overcome, of all the upsets, of all the frustrations, of all, and having dealt with all of that, that's pretty epic living. A lot of people can't sustain what this has been sustained. And what it showed up really was, you've got to drop that off to really move into life and free the energy up for that. And it was interesting because there was an element that says, but It was epic, and I earned all that epicness. And that epicness and seeing it as epic, all it really does is at each point in time that we have that are epic in our life, we see who we are. Or we can say, I can do that better that time, or wish I didn't do it that way. But there's a sense of epic. There are epic journeys in life, many of them. But holding on to the epic is not useful. Holding on to who I am in all of those processes and how I dealt with it. So the bag was dropped, the wrist was unlocked, and we're moving on in life. So a rather beautiful week where this energy of whatever we're attached to, that we've been through, or that we have felt over many lifetimes, and the coming into the world and going, oh my gosh, look at it, you know. And there are others who come into the world and go, whoa, look what I can do here. So it's more, whoa, what I can do here is the way forward, where it's seen in a wonderful opportunity to be self, and knowing with enough experiences you've already had that that is doable. The cards that came up were listening and inspiration. Listening. Now is the time to listen to your intuition. Slow down and quieten the mind chatter. Listen to your own words and ensure you are using positive language. When you hear others, make sure you can really listen to what is being said, and remember to listen more than just the words. Listen to your world with your heart. And see what others may not see. I mean, that's how all amazing businesses have grown. They saw something others couldn't see. And others said, that's never going to happen. And here we are. Inspiration. The river of all knowing allows every possibility to be open to you. Allow yourself to tap into this vastness. Be inspired by the beauty that surrounds you. Be inspired to open yourself to the riches the world has to offer. In any moment, you can allow inspirational thinking to set you free. Which moment will you choose? Drop out, drop in.